Okay, great. I'm getting audio now. All right, we can go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody. Um,
Mhm.
if we look at the agenda today, we see that the first one is Subtleties for Metropolis.
Mhm.
Um, so the first one is EIP 603, EC add EC mul. Um, that's Matthew. Is he in the call? Yeah, I think he's in. Oh, wait, no, that's a different Matthew, isn't it? Okay, that's the one we brought up last time. So I think last time we talked about this. This is about the adding a different curve to Constantinople. I think it was um, which curve? I'm trying to read through this real quick.
XP 256K1,
Yes,
the
that's
one
right.
that we use.
SECP 256K1 and adding ECAD and ECMUL precompiles for it. So I think I just added that because I said we'd talk about it some more. Anybody who's looked at this, or is there any other opinions on this? If not, I'll get Matt in the next time to talk about it more. Okay, cool. So yeah, most people were in agreement last time, but yeah. Let's see. So the next thing for updates to Byzantium is the testing updates. I think this morning in chat, Arkady and Martin talked, and did we decide between status and status code and receipts
Yeah,
that were
I
going with
guess so.
status?
So basically, just to update, brief recap, we'll add the status to receipt in our RPC as an int. So that's about it. So people can call F get transaction receipts to get the status of the transaction.
Okay. Does that need to be in an EAP, like added
I
anywhere?
don't think it needs to be added to an EAP. I'll update the wiki or methods. Someone please correct me if this actually needs to be in an EAP somewhere, but I think it only needs to be updated on the wiki.
Okay, that sounds good to me. The next thing is Hive test updates. So I think if Dimitri's in, if we could get no, actually, that would be Martin and Casey then. Martin, if you want to go first.
Yeah, so uh, we have 3 clients on Hive. The one that we're missing is, well, one of the ones that we're missing that should be there is Ethereum, unfortunately. But otherwise, it looks pretty good. Geth has a few failures, but all of them are due to how empty accounts are handled, which shouldn't be a problem in the future. It's a retroactive problem. We have an experimental branch which passes Hive fully, and all the fixes there are only related to empty accounts. Sorry, and collisions, but we don't really have to worry about collisions until next fork. So yeah, and parroted as well on Hive, and CVP has some errors, but most of them are not actually due to failure to parse, failure to have the correct state. It's because it doesn't exit properly. So Hive looks good.
Great. Before we get off of that, Mikhail from Ethereum J, I saw that last time you said you were looking to integrate with Hive eventually. Do you have any updates on that?
Yeah, we don't have any updates on that because we've been working on adopting tests which which were not adopted before. There are some RLP tests still not adopted in Ethereum J, and as I remember, we have ABI test not adopted yet. So I'm working on that now. So I want to adopt all tests from a test repository and then go with Hive and try to make an integration with that one. That's how the plans.
One
Okay.
more thing that I'd like to mention, though, I don't know if Dimitri is in here, but one thing that is lacking from the tests is difficulty tests. And Dimitri and which have been busy with that yesterday and today. So now they're pushing new difficulty tests so that we can try out the Byzantium difficulty. I don't know if it's. You might have to wait a few more hours, and then it should be in the test repos. We can't do those tests on Hive, unfortunately, but if so, each client basically needs to import the test and write whatever bespoke framework you use to run the test. So we get that covered as well.
Okay, sounds great. And then lastly, with this point, Vitalik, he did mention Pyeth is not compatible with Hive right now. Was there any work on that currently?
There hasn't been any work on Hive yet. I mean, although there has been work on getting Python to comply with the block tests, which it does now.
That's great.
Hold on. I recall in the chat about something like a few days or a week ago, I did bring up one issue, although like it's not a substantive issue because it would be like it's only an issue with the test. I think it has to do with. But my guess is that it's because the the post spurious dragon account number 3 bug got replicated to the other accounts as well. But like I'm not worried because it's like we've already just filled up those accounts with one way on the mainnet anyway.
Yeah, I think we also filled them up in Ropsten too, right? Okay, cool. Testnet launch update. Okay, so we successfully forked on Ropsten. So yay. We also did I think we verified a ZK Snark transaction. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, we verified the ZK Snark of a Zcash transaction, yes.
Okay, great. So that's pretty awesome too. Right now, or actually, Casey, I don't know if you were keeping up with this, but I think Ropsten was under attack. I know you mentioned something about that. Is that let up at all, or is there any updates? Oh, I don't think we could hear you, Casey. He might be having microphone problems right now. Feel free to speak up when your problems are solved, Casey. But basically, the other day on the FDev subreddit, they were talking about Ropsten being under attack, and they pointed to a account that is publishing a bunch of transactions. Here's the link to it, and then there's another link here about some things not processing correctly. I don't think it's anything of too much concern because it's a test net, but I just want to hear opinions on that. If there's anything that anyone thinks we should do in response to this on the test net. I don't know why someone would attack the test net except to, I guess, battle-proof it.
Yeah. I mean, these are the two threads saying Ropsten is not processing transactions and Ropsten is currently under attack, right?
Yeah, those are the only ones I've found that is basically,
okay.
Yeah, and I think that Casey said, yeah, here is what Casey said in response yesterday. I'll post it in chat.
Okay, so the attacker basically just pushed the gas price up to 50 Gwei, right?
Yeah, and Casey pushed it down again because of the miner pool that is running.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep, that's pretty much it. So I think that mitigated it slightly, but people are still having trouble getting their transactions in, basically.
Yeah.
So, oh well. Any other comments on that?
No, I mean, yeah, this does seem fairly inconsequential. I mean, the main thing is that it does show that Ropsten is an opportunity for testing and refining fee estimation algorithms.
Yeah, actually, I wonder what he's using to... I mean, I think he's just doing really expensive, like, stuff in the contract and then like filling up the whole block. So,
No. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Was there anybody else? Okay. So the next one is, well, everyone's pretty much implemented all the EIPs because we've done the testnet launch, at least on Geth and Parity. So I'll ask, I guess, for updates for testing if there's any updates that weren't described in Hive. So, Peter, are there any relevant updates for Byzantium and Geth?
Nope.
Okay, Arcady with Parity?
Sorry, no major updates. I think we're good.
Okay, great. Christian, anything update for CPP Ethereum?
I don't think so, but you should probably ask Pavel or Andre. Sorry about that.
Okay, cool. So let's start with Andre. Andre, any stuff? Okay, sounds good. And Pavel, if you got anything?
Yeah, nothing I'm aware of. I think the most development time is on actually tests to add more tests and tweak the testing tools.
Okay, great. Ethereum J, I think in the last update you said that you guys are up to speed on Metro and you were working on test. What other updates do you got?
We have passed the transition successfully, so everything is good for the moment. I mean on Ropsten, so we're running.
Okay, so you said it was good on Hudson? I mean, sorry, on Ropsten?
On Ropsten, yeah.
Okay. I was about to say, like, what does that mean? So, Ethereum JS, I think, Jared, you might have an update on that?
Yeah, so progress is moving forward. We're intending to roll out the Byzantium changes on Monday.
Awesome. So what that would mean is just basically you can full sync on Ropsten to the Byzantium fork, right?
You know what? I'll actually have to double check that, but I will. I know that we're passing almost all of the Byzantium tests, and but yeah, so I will double check that and get back to you on that.
Great. Any updates for the yellow paper, Yoichi? Yoichi, I don't know if your mic's working. We can't hear you. Okay. Yeah. Yoichi, just let us know in chat if it's working or not. But I just looked at the issue open for Metropolis changes, and it looks like everything's checked off, including the open EIP 20, or I think it was. Where was it? I think it was EIP 206 that Andre pointed out was potentially had some issues, and I think that was fixed. So yellow paper seems up to date as far as issues and pull requests, not necessarily merged. The next one, let's see, any other clients? It doesn't look like there's any. Actually, let's do something a little different. So Daniel, I saw you were in here. You're still working or at least up to speed on the Swarm updates, right?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, if you could just give us kind of an overview of where Swarm is at right now, I think that'd be really cool.
Okay. So there are few independent things being worked on. I am primarily working on privacy issues, so basically encrypted Swarm, because basically what we're nearing to is a stage where something mimicking the functionality of Dropbox can be implemented. So we already have FUSC mounting, so Swarm volumes can already be mounted in the Unix file system as that already works. We already have a web-based file manager-like thingy. So those things, they are ready, and the only thing that is gravely missing, and because of which people are not willing to put their private files on Swarm, is encryption. There's another issue that we discovered, that Swarm, as designed originally, is not very resilient against high churn. So if nodes come and leave frequently, then chunks which are present in the network cannot be found for a long time. And we have already redesigned routing to accommodate for that, but it hasn't been implemented yet. So that is a backlog item. And what else do we have? We have a test net, a test cluster, and we have some diagnostic tools with which complex simulations can be carried out to see how Swarm would react to various like network splits or churn or things like that. And this is a really useful tool because that's actually what allowed us to diagnose the problem of high churn, what really causes it. So concerning privacy, it is going to be, so first it is going to be a weak kind of plausible deniability. So if you have encrypted chunks on your hard drive, you can claim that, you know, this is random data and you don't have the key to it. But if it turns, so plausible deniability is a multifaceted issue because it really depends on the, like on what the threat model is. So I think that as long as the internet remains a, you know, halfway civilized place, that would be enough. But as presented in Berlin, we already have a much stronger plausible deniability solution, which is so it causes quite a bit of overhead. It requires twice as much data stored as the plain text, but that is unconditionally secure in the sense that to any ciphertext you can find, for any ciphertext and any key you can find a plain text, so for any ciphertext and any plain text you can find a key that would make the two match, meaning that no ciphertext can be proven to belong to a particular plain text. But like I really believe that this is not going to be necessary for a long time. So this is a backlog item, like way down on the priority list.
So where would like we go if we wanted to like try Swarm or learn more? Is there like a website?
Well, there's a Swarm site. So there's some pages that are already hosted in Swarm that contain the Swarm documentation, and there's the Swarm gateway, which is a web gateway to Swarm. The currently registered domain name, I think, is let me check.
Yeah, and actually, what you can do, if you could post it in the group chat on Google Hangouts. You said onegateway.com?
No, Swarm Gateways, swarm-gateways.net.
Great.
Let me post it here.
Yeah, just post it in the group chat. That would work great. Cool. So thanks so much for that update. So let's see what the next item is here. Thanks, Daniel. Instead of, let's see, actually, yeah, the next item is review timing for testing and release. So the testnet has been going well so far. in regards to, I mean, running smoothly, I think everyone said. Has anyone found any problems with the fork at all? All right, so I think we can look at it, and today's the 22nd. The 9th was a date we threw out previously for the hard fork to occur. That would be in, let's see, 14, 15, 17. That'd be in about 17 days from now. So what is everyone's thoughts on when the actual hard fork should happen, and should we decide a date today?
Okay, so in this kind of 4.3 million block series, let me just get out what the block time should be. Okay, so 1 minute ago, 1,000 blocks takes 8 hours and 5 minutes. So that'll be let's see, 28,800 seconds, 29,100 seconds. So we should see about a 29-second block time. Right now, it still technically shows the 25 seconds because we just haven't kind of fully gotten to it yet. But yeah, 29 second is what my Ice Age thing roughly predicted. So 17 days would basically mean 17 multiplied by 86,400 divided by 29. Hold on, sorry. Which is 50,648 blocks. So basically, it will give us almost exactly 4.35 mil.
So 4.35 mil would be the 9th, is what you're saying, or around that time?
Yeah, 4.35 mil would be the block number.
Cool. What are people's thoughts on that date?
I'd personally prefer just being maybe slightly more conservative and going for something like 4.37 or so. Mainly because I do feel like we're totally not in an emergency situation, and the Ethereum ecosystem is bigger, and so I feel like we should veer more towards kind of standards of conservatism than we have with Homestead in the past.
Okay, that's a good point.
I mean, I'd actually even be willing to go all the way up to 4.4 million. But
and what's that if you translate it to human days?
4.4 million translated into days would be basically 34 days, so something like October 25th.
Have we set the date for Rinkerby? Shouldn't we maybe set that date and then wait and see?
Well, so Rinkerby, in my opinion, isn't too interesting because if Geth has a consensus issue, it will still stay in consensus with itself. So
yeah, I think the same applies to Coven or Coven.
So we can set whatever fork block in the next release of Geth and just roll it out. But that doesn't really represent any insurance as to the main network.
Okay. Let's see.
In that sense, it's too bad that the most used test networks today are client-specific. I don't think many people are using Ropsten for a lot of tests.
Yeah, I mean, that is a good argument. Like, the one thing I'd probably want to personally see before the mainnet release is to basically just try a bunch of things using all of the different precompiles on top of the Ropsten Live network. Just basically send a bunch of transactions that I try to use every single EIP in different contexts, including the static call stuff, including revert and so forth. So in that case, it's not so much a matter of time as it's a matter of effort.
Okay, so if that's the case, we could do a little bit better about planning maybe days or time periods where the major clients run those, basically send those transactions that use the new features and see what happens. Is that kind of what you're getting at, that there needs to be a little collaboration on that?
Yeah, well, I mean, actually, you don't really need collaboration. We just need like a couple of groups of people to just like do stuff and like throw whatever junk on the Ethereum blockchain that they want to, and then if all three clients stay in sync, then we're all good.
Okay.
By the way, speaking of multiple clients, what's the status of CPP being well, number one being compatible with all the tests, and number two being like a client that could theoretically sync the blockchain?
I can answer about the being able to sync. So we have running Ropsten node currently. It can be seen on status Ropsten page.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we just recently merged the currently experimental feature of snapshot import. So now you could take a snapshot in the parities work format and sync it and import it, and then sync from that point, from the point of snapshot. So that works for Ropsten now. For mainnet, there are still some issues with the sync. I'm working on that right now, and yeah, hopefully this is soon.
Yeah. Actually, the other question I wanted to ask is on the Geth side. I remember, like in the 1.7 release, it said that there were a bunch of improvements. So things like the generational cache, is like various optimizations that you wanted to do in the 1.7 release, and it would be also nice to have some of those out before Byzantium as well. Basically because like in Byzantium, like the gas limits, or sorry, the block time is going back down, and so the capacity is going back up. So it would be good to have some of that just for safety.
Yep, I agree. Basically we're kind of waiting for Nick to sort out some issues on that front. Although I think he was kind of a bit busy with nowadays with some. I'm not sure what, but so his work in theory looks solid. The only issue that he still has to figure out is to make sure that fasting doesn't break, because basically his work is based on not committing every data to the database, just sporadically, which is a really nice performance improvement. But we need to ensure that nodes still can sync.
Right, and the other thing I'd personally want to see is how much of an improvement that gives on the 2016 DOS attacks. So especially the balance and ext code size stuff, and like that's basically probably the best kind of live test that we have for like the kinds of things I'm worried about or I'm interested in optimizing.
So we did try a few benchmarks, but Nick's code had some bottleneck problem that he needs to fix before we can do any meaningful benchmarks.
Right. It's the reason why, the main problem with kind of artificial tests that I've found is that in general, it's hard to make a kind of artificial tests for things like already having a 10 gigabyte database with like 20 million state objects, which is the situation that we have in reality.
Yeah, sure. So I completely agree that testing only using the mainnet can be a meaningful test.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But so I'm still waiting for Nick to fix one issue, and then we can run a nice test and see how it performs. Basically, what an interesting test is just importing the entire blockchain using basically by reprocessing every transaction. Not fast syncing, rather doing a full archive sync and seeing where that goes.
Exactly. And then, yeah, I'd be interested in seeing comparisons of that and the like the clients that existed before.
Yep, well, definitely.
Okay. Any other opinions on that? Okay, so what it's sounding like is that we could, so super conservatively, we could go later October. Otherwise, we could go 4.35 or 4.37 mil, and 4.35 would be something like October 9th-ish, and 4.37, was that October 12th-ish?
October like 16th-ish or so, and then 4.4 would be like October 25th-ish.
4.4 October 25th-ish. Okay.
Yeah, the 4.4 seems to be quite close to the DEFCON 3. I'm sure it's the best time. Maybe some people might be in the transition already.
Okay, well, that's a good point. So maybe
if we miss that like couple of like more days.
Yeah, I think 4.4, especially because of DevCon and other commitments, is probably too far. The 16th might even be a little bit. In my opinion, I'd still go with the 9th just because between now and then we can coordinate stuff being thrown at the blockchain, and so I don't see that much risk because that would mean the testnet's running for 3 weeks at that point. And obviously, if we find a problem, we can then extend that date, like whenever we want. But if everything goes perfect, which, because we're the best developers ever, it's going to go absolutely perfect with no problems at all, then yeah. Let's see. So 4.35 is October 9th. Anybody else have opinions on that?
Let's see. Yeah, by the way, if you want to really know, I ran the Ice Age script. 4.35 is on the 9th, 4.37 is on the 17th, and 4.4 is on the 27th. Yeah.
What was 4.4 again? You said 27th?
Yeah. Okay, yeah, no, I can... No, it's... I guess it's definitely a good argument that 4.4 is a bit too late, so it seems... 4.37 seems... much more plausible.
Yeah, that's what, like a week after, a week and a day?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, technically a week and 6 hours because it's evening on the 9th versus like the 0030 in the morning on the 17th.
So what would 4.36 be?
The 13th. Ooh, wonder if that's a Friday. That'll be fine. Oh, cool! It's a Friday. Okay, I'm in favor of 4.36.
Wow, Friday the 13th. So you're wanting bad luck, and if anything goes wrong, it's a weekend.
Okay, fine.
All right, let's see here. That would be really cool, though. I like that date, but nope, no weekend work. Yeah, I think the 17th would be fine. That's a week delay. But that's not even really a delay in a way because we get a little more time to throw stuff at the test network. Let's see what YouTube chat is saying. YouTube chat thinks 3/7, so it can be Friday the 13th, but we're not going to go with those people. Sorry if I called you those people, everybody on the internet. So 3/6 sounds like we're like what Vitalik is leaning towards. Anybody else have opinions?
No, 3/6 is the Friday the 13th date.
Oh, sorry. 3/7 is what I meant. Okay. I guess if no one has opinions, let's just say 4.36 right now. Yeah, like everyone, like seriously, everyone's cool with that.
Yeah. No.
So, it would be October 13th or not?
It would be October 17th. Oh, sorry, I said 3/6 again. It would be
3/6 is the 13th. 3/7 is the 17th.
So I'm going to put in my notes not this date. So the 17th is what I meant. So 4.37 million is the block number. October 17th would be the date that Vitalik is proposing.
No.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I'm okay with that too. So the 17th. Yeah, okay, now the people on YouTube are saying 3/7. So, all right, we have consensus from YouTube people.
Maybe we should ask 4chan as well.
Oh no. Man, that reference. I've been there.
I think they go for Friday the 13th as well.
Yeah, they probably would. Let's get back on track. So right now, let's just say 4.37, which would be October 17th-ish time frame. So we can have a little bit more time to test and throw stuff at the network. If anyone has any other opinions, bring it up in the core dev channel. or we can bring it up next meeting. I don't think at this point, if we decide this, we'll shorten it though. So as of now, this is the final block number, and before clients are released, we'll verify that in chat.
Sounds good.
Cool. So there's a few other extra items. We don't have to go through all of them. If everyone can refresh their agenda page, I added a few more that were put in comments. The first one is going to be Snappy compression. Let me see what progress has happened on that EIP. There's also some really good Reddit discussion over it. I don't know who's seen that or not.
Any link?
Is there a link to the Reddit discussion?
Yeah. Let me go find it real fast. But while that's happening, Peter, any updates on that or other opinions you've heard? And then we'll go to Arcady and other people who've commented. Piper's not here, though.
So actually, two people, actually there were in total 4 comments or 4 people commented about that, about more interesting comments. Axic was saying that, yeah, so Axic was worried whether, I think, let me, just one moment, I just have to skim through it. Anyway, so all in all, as far as I know, everybody likes the idea, apart from Arcady. Unfortunately, he did not reply to my questions for 14 days now. So the fact that, yes, last time we said, let's postpone so that we can discuss on GitHub was completely useless.
Okay, so yeah, it looks like, let me see. Sorry, my cat's messing around with stuff. I'm getting distracted. Elegant solution. So yeah, if you want to just summarize in like a couple sentences, Peter, then Arcady can kind of talk about it now.
Yes.
Sorry, what are we discussing now currently?
Oh, sorry, it's going to be EIP. I should have like announced it. It's EIP 706 for Snappy compression. That was the one where you had mentioned that you were in favor of having it be a sub protocol rather than something that goes cross clients.
Yeah, so I still think it should be negotiated, but yeah, I mean, if the majority thinks it would be simpler to just enable it unconditionally, we're fine with that.
So just basically the counter argument that I brought up is that so without considering it too much, it might be a reasonable requirement to have it enabled per subprotocol individually. The problem is, the practical problem is that our handshake, so the dev peer-to-peer handshake, does not support adding capabilities to subprotocols. So if you want to add such a field, then it means we need to upgrade dev peer-to-peer handshake again. And last time it took us about 2 months of coordination. And I think Felix had to implement the update for Python and C++ too. And we needed 2 releases on all clients to make sure that everything works correctly. So that was the...
But wait, you're still going to update the version, right?
Well, of course, but the handshake, so we don't need a new handshake for it. And even if we need it, the handshake message itself can be extended, so it is backward compatible. So we can add arbitrarily many new fields to the handshake, and every client will still accept it. But if we add anything to the capabilities part of a handshake, then every client will immediately reject it, so the network would fall apart to upgrade it and non-upgrade it.
Yeah, unless they are still using the old version, which is compatible with the old version.
But my point is that, yeah, but you need to parse the handshake to actually read the version number. And if you modify the handshake, then you cannot parse it anymore.
Okay, that's a good point.
And so this was one of the counter arguments of a hidden complexity. And the other one that, at least as far as I know, Snappy is really, really fast if something cannot be compressed. So for example, the pure Go version of Snappy can compress at around 15 gigabytes per second JPEG images. Essentially, it's memcopy. So I don't think it really weighs much that we compress encrypted data, for example, in the case of Whisper.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. The only 2 things I wanted to bring up, Peter, if you could click on the link I just put in chat. Someone on Reddit named Also Mahler said he had 2, I guess, concerns. One of them was compression overhead. which might result in redundant cases, which I think is a point Arkady brought up before. But the other one, which I hadn't heard before, is that it's saying compression of data could weaken encryption of that data, especially for other protocols utilizing Ethereum like Light Client and Whisper. There might be information leaks, but I'm not technical enough to understand that piece of the argument. If anyone can elaborate on kind of what this Redditor was saying, that'd be great.
So I don't really see why there could be data leak, because so basically after we compress the encryption, the def peer-to-peer encryption happens afterwards. So I'm unsure why it would leak out.
Yeah, so there's a misconception. If you do compression and then encryption, then you can have data leaks. But if you do encryption and then compression, it's no problem.
I see. Okay.
Not encryption and then compression. So you cannot compress encrypted data.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, compression has to come first for compression to be useful.
Yeah, but then you get problem with data leak.
Right. Well, no, but like compressing after encrypting just is totally completely useless, right? And if if encrypting before compressing is necessary, then we can't compress at all. So I'd rather like figure out.
But I still don't understand why it's, for example, in this comment it says that with the Light Client, information might leak, but why is that even relevant? So what kind of information?
Interested in seeing exactly what the data leaks are.
And I think it's for client, or it's for protocols, at least Whisper, that's still in progress, right?
But Whisper does its own encryption. It doesn't depend on the peer-to-peer layer.
So Whisper encrypts everything itself. So from that perspective, Snappy will just be a pass-through.
Okay. Anything else, Vitalik?
Can't think of anything. No.
Okay, cool. Any other comments on this?
Yeah, I'd like to point out that, I mean, we know that there are problems with encryption and key management. So if there is data which definitely should not be leaked, then it shouldn't rely on that encryption layer.
Okay, that's a good plan, just to make it kind of a practice that we push for, or that we tell people to do, to not put encrypted data on there afterwards, if I understood correctly. Cool. So I think that is confirmed then, if clients could implement that. And Peter, if you want us to kind of, in future meetings, bring that up. Thanks everybody, and Arkady and everyone else for the discussion. And yep, that's approved. And I swear if my cat knocks over another thing. All right, I'm not going to murder a cat on a core dev call, though. Let's see, what's the next item?
Blake?
Yeah, Zuko was supposed to be on this call, but I don't think he could make it. Vitalik, I think he mentioned he talked to you, so would you be able to elaborate on what his thinking is?
Yeah, so basically the idea is that Blake is a hash function that, I mean, at least he definitely says it's like several times faster than SHA-3 and several times more compact than SHA-3. So in fact, like he would even recommend just like Ethereum switching from SHA-3 over to Blake entirely at some point. But if we were to consider something like that, then the right time to do it would be something like the sharding switch. So that would be much later. But even still, the reason why he uses it is because the function, like in general for ZK snark applications and for any kind of general purpose zero knowledge proof, like the overhead on like individual gates in any computation is extremely high. And so you really want to use hash functions that are like as efficient and as compact as possible. And switching to Blake is part of what could like really take down the proving time of just any kind of snark application. So this would be things like ZK, like these zero knowledge tradable tokens that Christian was working on a while ago, having the ability to, and also any kind of Ethereum chain and Zcash chain interaction stuff, Blake would make either of those like much more efficient.
So this would be a primitive that is added for Constantinople.
Constantinople or Serenity. I mean, it's like any of these could be added later on if you really want to.
Okay. Other opinions? Or I should be specific. Other opinions on if adding this to Ethereum is a good idea, or something that, or if there's people should think it would be Constantinople or later. Yeah. So
I'm curious.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, if there are any similar functions which would enable other interoperability with, for example, Monero or things like that. And if we should have a discussion about what primitives we would like to have on and what integrations will be possible if we add X or Y.
Yeah.
Oh, I cut out on the last part what you said, Martin. What was that?
No, I think it would be interesting to know what different primitives would enable what integrations across chain.
Yeah, that's a good point. Any clients on the call, is there concerns about their, or actually, I mean, really everyone should be given a chance to look and see what, how it would be implemented and stuff before we go much further with the discussion, but is that kind of what you're saying? We need to see how difficult it would be for clients to implement?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's a good thread on, so I posted a link to something Zuko sent about hash functions, and I'm also going to send the EIP. It's also listed in the agenda that gives a good history, because this is a very old issue. It's one of the first EIPs from 2016, and it was made by Jaden Hess, and he is at Cornell right now, but I talked to him yesterday, and he said he'd be happy to help get this spec up to speed, and he can work with anybody from Zcash or anywhere else. I think I'm going to be working with Jay from Zcash to kind of guide her through the process of updating this EIP and getting it to the standard that we use today. So I'll be doing that so we can have a more formal discussion in the future. It's still early enough. We don't need to make any decisions today. We'll just keep discussing this.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. If there's no other comments on that, I think that EIP 718 was mentioned in a comment on the agenda, and I have a link to it if you refresh the agenda. And that was from, what was that from? I think Lefteris, and he's not able to be on the call. So we can postpone it for next time if no one has any thoughts on it. But there's a EIP called 718, and its purpose is to, let's see, there's like an idea to, actually, nope, this is above my head. Does anyone have a summary of 718?
718, I think basically the idea is, right, every S-loaded record must be locked until termination of the frame. It's basically an anti-reentrancy thing. It's probably how I would interpret it. Oh God! Wow, this Medium post is inflammatory.
Oh, is it linked in the EIP or a separate thing?
Let's see. Come on. Where it was linked. This is the formal proposal. Here is rather emotional rationale. Medium post, and he links to the Ethereum, the Ethereum fraud subreddit.
That's great. Okay, so yeah, I think we all need to look at this a little bit more. So I'll bring it up in the next meeting agenda.
Let's see.
Oh yeah, if you have any other comments, Vitalik, feel free.
My instinct is that like we need more features to do this sort of thing, but I do feel like the things that we do should be more backwards compatible than this. Basically, like I'm afraid that if we try to make kind of naive kludges to try to make storage not like to make storage not editable in this way, then it'll end up breaking things in other places, and it'll end up making things like more unintuitive. So in general, my preference for just dealing with these reentrancy attacks is to basically a combination of adding new primitives that allow people to write code in kind of safer ways that doesn't invoke them. So one example is static call, and another example that I think we should go back to is async call. So basically, a call accepted executes asynchronously after all of the existing calls are finished. And the second thing is basically just modifying programming languages and making more restrictive programming languages that require those kinds of things.
Yeah, one thing that Christian mentioned, or if it was Nick who mentioned it earlier in the ETH, was the ability to do ephemeral storage that you don't have to pay as much for as you do for an S-store. Then you could implement mutexes using these ephemeral storages, which lasts for the duration of the transaction. Much cheaper than if you would implement the same thing using S-stores.
Okay. Any other comments on that?
Isn't that what memory is for?
Say that one more time.
Isn't that what memory is for?
Yeah, but you lose memory when you go to the next call frame, and if you come back later on through a reentrancy, you don't have the same. You have a clear memory. This would be kind of in the middle ground between memory and S-store.
Ephemeral, but not that ephemeral.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Any other comments on that? Again, it's above my head, so I don't know when discussion wraps up.
I think it needs to be fleshed out in ETH form a bit and discussed.
Cool. Thanks, Martin. So EIP 215 was brought up by Alex. Alex is on the call, I think. Are you in here, Alex?
Yeah.
Sweet. Take it away.
I think we discussed it probably 3 calls ago, and nobody was really against it. And there's one thing has changed since we changed the operands, swapped them. So the top item is the number of bits. We're shifting the value, which is the second item from the top. That's it. That basically is, it doesn't follow many of the arithmetic functions in operand order, but it feels like it makes more sense. That the value we want to shift already is on the stack by the time we want to shift it. So basically, it will avoid many cases a swap. So I guess the question is any comments on that one?
Yeah, I think that Pavel, Nick, and Greg have looked at it. Greg, you still think it's a good idea?
Takes time to unmute the microphone. Yeah, I haven't changed my mind.
Cool. Pavel?
Yes, I approve this change.
All right, cool. Anybody have any other comments or anything against it? Otherwise, I think it can go through. All right, great. This can go through then. We can make note of it in the EIPs. We've been doing a bad job of updating it quick enough. So if we don't update this, Alex, just bug me and Casey and Nick or any of the other editors until we update it.
What do you mean by update?
Oh, just like put approved on the PR and like merge it.
All right. Yep.
Thanks.
I can do that for you, Alex.
Oh yeah, awesome. Greg, of course. Let's see.
Yeah, don't merge it yet. I think we have to clarify one wording.
Sure.
Keep it on.
Let's see. So the last two things were something that Christian brought up as comments, but he wasn't able to stick around. So he said if anyone wants to discuss this, feel free. Otherwise, we can postpone. And also, I think Lefteris just joined. Lefteris, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Perfect. We actually already discussed your point, but if you want to bring anything up about it, you had the 718, right?
No. I just wanted to join to see if the status thing was discussed. Just for that. Don't mind me.
No problem. Just in summary, basically, we just need to look at it a little bit more, and maybe get it a little more formalized. But as of right now, there's not, I didn't hear a huge amount of interest in it, but we can bring it up in the future because it's interesting, or it brings up some interesting points.
No, Lefteris talked about the status field, right?
Yes. So I see. You are talking about the
concurrency locks.
It's load the logs. Yes, I see.
Mm-hmm. No, status is decided. Martin, it was decided that it would be status rather than status code, right? As an int.
Yeah, I'll update the wiki.
Perfect. Yeah, no, Lefteris, I was talking about the thing where you said an interesting EIP raising the question of concurrency and locks. I was just saying we already discussed that, but you can chime in with anything you were thinking about it.
Nothing in particular. I just thought that it would be nice for others to say their opinion.
Did we lose Hudson?
Oh, sorry, I'm talking and I'm muted. I was saying the last two items are Christian, and he was going to want to bring up account abstraction again and how the toolset providers think about it and if there's a better solution in the meantime. Can anyone elaborate on that? If not, we'll just wait for Christian next time. And then the next thing, and I think Martin commented on this, is a way to reduce gas cost for an S store. That's item 7. When it is, if that slot is destroyed at the end of the transaction, so ephemeral storage. So this actually, I think, is what we also talked about at 718. Is that right, Martin?
Yeah, I didn't really mean that we need to discuss it on the all court. We can hash it out over each and then take the discussion later on.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So just to recap the thing that we discussed earlier, 4.37 million is the pretty much final block number for Byzantium, unless things go wrong on the testnet in the next 4 weeks, or at this point about 3 weeks. That would be around October 17th, roughly, which would be a Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday, I'm thinking. And is there any other points of discussion, off-topic agenda items or anything?
Well, I have one question. Regarding
Yes.
ERC.
Real quick, let's have Daniel go first and then Dimitri. Yeah, Daniel, what's your question?
Okay, so my question is about the ERC process. So if somebody creates a pull request with an ERC document, what is the process of it getting merged?
Casey, is your microphone working?
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. I was going to comment on it, but I guess I want to get your perspective and Greg's perspective as well. The EIP editors have discussed this in the past, and I think we have kind of sort of landed on something. So, Casey, if you wanted to elaborate on that, otherwise I can or Greg can.
Well, my perspective is that we really don't have a well-defined process for ERCs.
Yeah, we just finalized ERC 20 though, just because Otherwise, people are going to argue over the spec, and I think that finalization does need to happen. Casey does have a slightly different opinion, but that's cool too. The only other ERC we finalized is the one for FPM, and how that went down is that Piper Merriam came up with the spec. He wrote it down. He got people from all of the relevant tool sets and frameworks together. So he did Populous, and I think he got Truffle, Dapple, Embark, and maybe even someone from the Remix team on board to agree to having that as the standard for Ethereum smart contract package management. And so that ERC got approved. The other ERC that got approved was ERC 20. We pushed that through recently. So I think this might be written in EIP 1, but in general, you come up with an ERC, you format it in the way that's defined in EIP 1, you get relevant people from the community who would have a stake in whatever decision is made, or just thought leaders to comment on it, and after some discussion and evaluation, it becomes approved if it's implemented. I think in at least 2 instances. It basically has to be implemented or demonstrated in some way. So people can't go on and just say, I want Ethereum to be called apples now. So so basically it's a community standard. So you can kind of do an ERC and then just kind of say it's done if you want. But if as far as officially being done, we don't have like a super strict standard on that yet. Greg, what are your comments?
Hello?
Hey, we can hear you now.
You can. Okay. It's one of these stupid interfaces where the controls disappear, and then you move the mouse around, and if you're lucky, they reappear. They haven't reappeared, but apparently the microphone turned on. Anyway, I don't have any comments except that I don't know what the process is either.
All right, we should definitely shore up that process, so I'll put that as a to-do list item.
Yeah, and I think if people have proposals for the process, whether the 2 models I've seen are either more like EIPs or the Python PEPs, or more like IETF RFCs, we're free to define the process however we want. So rather than asking what is the process, you could also propose a process.
Yep, exactly. And we actually just recently got a new EIP editor, Robert from the Parity team. So yeah, we're hoping to get stuff back on track with EIP soon. And then Dimitri, did you have a comment?
Can you hear me well enough?
It's a little bit echoey, but yes, we can hear you.
So I was going to talk about the difficulty test and say that we decided to implement difficulty test like we did last time for Homestead. We just took the same format and had just one line, meaning the hash of the block handles. And with this, you could calculate the difficulty of any block just reading the specs from the JSON file. The issue is that such tests does not define a blockchain parameters. It might be issue with the configs. And those tests not executed on Hive, and I don't know how many clients will use those tests unless we force them to use it. And to solve that, we had an idea with Yoichi to change blockchain tests so that they could start with a genesis number of like 3 million, and from that point we could import any amount of blocks, and we could craft a blockchain test starting from the point that we need to test the difficulty formula from. But that might require implementation of such a thing, reading from JSON config for Genesis to start from block X. The difficulty tests we currently implemented are easier. But what do you think on that?
Is there specific people you think would be apt to respond to that. I'm not sure. Is anyone in here? Martin, maybe?
Yeah, I'll defer to Peter or Arcady. Spontaneous, it sounds very simple to take a block number from the Genesis, though.
But that works like, don't we work like that even now?
Not sure.
Yeah,
if we don't, it would be simple to do it, though.
Dimitri, how does it work today compared to what you're proposing?
So today, blockchain test has a genesis of number 0, and that's how it works on Hive. If we change that, I don't know what will be the parity in Python and other clients. Maybe they won't be able to do it without special implementation. So right now we have just a difficulty test in a test repository in a basic test folder. There is a difficulty and the network name .json test containing a series of inputs and outputs for difficulty formula. That's how we did it last time for host tests. It's basically the same. The transition blocks and the configuration for those tests in a CPP repository. And, people already have issues in interpretation of how to run those tests.
Well, to be honest, I think if clients do not support this currently, maybe it would be a valuable addition. I mean, to be able to set the block number of the Genesis block, I know it's a bit, maybe it sounds a bit weird, but if it helps testing a lot, then maybe it's simpler to just support this instead of hacking all future tests a bit so that they can run.
Yeah, so Arcady, how does parity work today in regards to this?
I think it's already configurable, but if not, it's easy enough to do that.
Okay, that sounds pretty good. What about C++? What about you guys?
No, we have to implement this feature. Genesis doesn't start with the custom numbers. Only default is 0.
Okay, and it sounds like Geth, y'all can do it too, Peter.
Yeah, sure. So if it's not implemented, it should be simple enough for the test.
Okay, Vitalik, what about Pyth?
Pyth app?
A Pyth app. So basically for testing, if you can make it so that you're not always using 0 as the Genesis block and make it, for the test cases, make it dynamic is what I understood it as.
I think it should be doable, and I could check.
Okay, and I think what would need to happen is next core dev meeting, we go through this again. And Dimitri, if you could write up a couple paragraphs about how we currently do it versus how you're proposing we do it in the future. It sounds like most of the major clients already said that they can do it, but just so that we can go through each client next meeting, write up a few paragraphs and send them to me, please.
I don't think that's needed. I think if Dimitri just creates a test which relies on that, then we would see if it passes on Hive or not.
All right, even better.
Okay, we already have issue open in the test repository about that. And another part is pretty similar, is a proposal to make it optional for the blockchain test with the difficulty calculation algorithms. Currently, each blockchain test requires mining of a block, and the difficulty is checked for every blockchain test. So what we think of is to do it customizable. So the blockchain test which would be checking difficulty will consist of actual blocks that were mined. And if it doesn't require difficulty, then we don't have to mine blocks and spend a lot of time in working with hard drive and stuff. And current blockchain tests are really slow because of that.
I don't really agree with this. So the point of Hive would be that it's a black box tester, so that it runs exactly as the client runs in normal circumstances. If we start adding features to disable certain things, then we kind of lose the whole point of the black box testing.
I would agree with that.
Well, changing Genesis starting block is kind of another out of block black box change.
So it would be outside of Hive, is what you're saying, Dimitri, or would be in Hive only?
I don't know. Currently, I guess none of the clients starts with a Genesis for not equal 0.
So would that affect this idea of Hive being a black box tester, Dimitri?
Casey was implementing that import from snapshot. Maybe that function requires a Genesis to be non-zero. And if every client supports snapshots, then it should have a Genesis non-equal 0.
Casey, do you have any thoughts on that? Or Tim or Jared or anybody?
Yeah, I do think the supporting a Genesis block numbers greater than 0 in Hive can still be considered a black box feature, but I would like to get Peter's opinion on that.
No, I think that's completely fine. So that's basically just allowing the clients to, whenever you just initialize the chain, allowing the clients to specify a block number. I don't think that's anything inherently wrong with that one. Of course, clients might break if you start using network sync, etc., using that. So I don't expect clients to do any meaningful testing so that it actually works on live networks. But just importing blocks on top of a non-zero block, I think it should be fine. It's much less invasive than, for example, adding flags to disable certain consensus features.
Okay.
Okay. So Genesis starting from custom block number is okay, and blockchain test with disabled mining features is not okay.
Yeah, that sounds like what we reached here. Anybody have any other comments? Martin, you were saying that it didn't kind of comply with the definition of black box testing, but any change in opinion?
I think those were Peter's words, but yeah, I kind of agree. I mean, I think there is a flag today to actually disable it, but ideally we shouldn't run black box testing like that.
Yeah. So you're saying it doesn't really hurt to have it?
Because the test generation is so intense, then I mean, yeah, we have to, but ideally we shouldn't.
But I'm not really following. Why is the test generation so intense?
I guess it's mostly the CPP issue at the moment. Block in a blockchain test is being mined, and then blockchain test open blockchain class, which requires hard drive access, and it stores this block and then close the database. It's mine another blockchain.
But I guess mining should be instantaneous if we're doing it on a...
Yes, mining is instantaneous. My assume is that in CDP client, my assumption is that in CDP client, mining thread require at least 1 second to join, even if the mining difficulty is instantaneous. And another place where CDP might spend in time is reading the blockchain from the hard drive. So we have it like 50 hours for all of the blockchain tests that we have currently. It's about 10,000 tests, I guess. Well, really lots of, 10,000 seconds is spent for the test execution alone, and 50 hours needed to generate the blockchain test. 50 hours on the CPP client.
That sounds kind of insane.
It sounds like a long time.
Yeah, but it sounds also like something could be optimized there.
What was that, Martin?
Well, I got the impression that it sounded like something could be optimized. It wasn't inherently taking that much time.
Yoichi? Yoichi, did you have a comment?
No, I had a small comment. This 1 second per block thing I removed already. The time, Dimitri says no, but I at least removed one sleep 1 second.
Okay. So this might be something we should bring up next meeting, maybe. Anybody have thoughts on that? This is also another technical issue that I have trouble assessing consensus on.
So my opinion, what we could do is we should really try to see what the bottlenecks are, because obviously it shouldn't take that long, and try to fix it. And in my opinion, if it's still an issue, meaning that it takes still, let's say, half a day, then I think we should be able to just set up a small build job that spins up a Kubernetes cluster, maybe 4 machines, just generates the tests in 1 hour, and then just spins them off. So I don't think this should be a problem to parallelize the whole thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Are fixed, of course.
Yeah, and then Arkady, you already said that you could do it, right?
He did. If you're talking about Genesis, yes.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great. Let's just say we'll do it then. That sounds good to me. So yeah, I think that's the last agenda item. Does anyone have anything else? Cool. All right. Thanks, everybody. See you in 2 weeks. Oh, Dimitri, did you have anything else?
Yes, I just remember that Casey was working on a leap fuzzer, and I just started implementing that. Do we want a leap fuzzer coverage before the release?
Okay. Anything else? All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see y'all in 2 weeks.
Dimitri wants to speak.
Oh, sorry. I thought that he said that it was... I think I misheard him. Go right ahead, Dimitri.
So my question was about leap fuzzer. So Casey found a person who works with a special leap fuzzer, and we could integrate that into CPP client, and potentially it could create some new test cases that we are unable to think of. And do we want those to be done before the release or before the next fork?
Okay, so the question is that Casey has a fuzzer that can be implemented into the CPP client in order to find new test cases. Yeah, go ahead, Martin.
Yeah, I was going to say, so it's Guido, and he's already working for us to implement this and find new test cases. So we're hoping that that pays off before we go on the mainnet. Was there anything particular you were wondering? I didn't really understand the question, Dimitri.
Did that answer your question, Dimitri?
Sorry, what was the exact answer?
I think Martin said it already works. What did you say, Martin?
Line, Dimitri. But we have Guido is working on libfuzzer and passing all the clients using a different approach than what we've been doing ourselves. Yeah, that was basically it. And he's doing good progress, and I hope that that it gets results and finds any issues that we don't find with our manual tests.
Yeah, we have a couple of fuzzing approaches, and we hope to get them both up and running before, before block 4.37.
Just have a test out of those approaches that you could run on Hive.
Yes, that will be turned into tests eventually.
Okay. So any other concerns with that? It sounds like it can go in before the actual hard fork, right?
Yeah, I think it's running. A lot of fuzzing is running. Cases mines are running, and Guido's and Dimitri's. So we're doing all we can with fuzz testing in parallel with the manual tests.
Okay, great. Anybody else have comments, or did that answer your question, Dimitri?
But you saw that there are some work being done on the fuzz testing. Just that I have never seen any of the fuzz tests.
Could you repeat yourself and get a little closer to the mic? It was hard to hear you.
Okay, I haven't seen at least one test out of fuzzer, and I don't know what is the progress.
Yeah, we can discuss this in the fuzz test channel in Gitter.
Yeah, Dimitri, are you in the fuzz test channel? I think that was created fairly recently, or a few months ago.
Yeah, I saw the channel.
Perfect. Yeah. Let's take discussion there for the fuzz test stuff. But fuzz testing is a really cool tool from what I've seen of it in the clients. So, okay, cool. Anybody else have anything? All right, great. See everybody in 2 weeks. Goodbye.
Okay, see you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.